This was horrendous, Stefan. I mean, everything that we feared that would come to be has essentially come to be. Barcelona were excellent. They overran this Dortmund side. The first 10, 15 minutes felt like an onslaught, and when Barcelona did eventually score, it really very much felt overdue, didn't it? And then, Guirassy had an opportunity to make it 1-1. He completely scuffed that chance. And then from there on, it was just a barrage. It was beautiful football by Barcelona. I thought that the second goal that Lewandowski headed home was tremendous. This is a side that, plays Hansi Flick football at its best. The sort of Hansi Flick football that the German national team fans maybe hoped for when they got him as the head coach. It didn't work out there. It's working out really well at Barcelona. I said it going into this game. I think Barcelona are the team to beat when it comes to the Champions League this year. I think they're in fantastic form. And I think we can pretty much recap now after the first 90 minutes of this 180-minute leg that Dortmund won't be the team to take them out.
No, it doesn't. I don't think so. This certainly isn't the Dortmund of last season, is it?
No.
Who sit deep and could maybe have kind of weathered the storm. And there are a few reasons behind that. One, obviously, they've got a new head coach who wants to play a different style of football, but also two, they're missing a number of big players, and I think that's kind of where we have to start with the kind of breakdown of this game. This Dortmund
Yeah.
team just were not up to scratch one way or another. They had chances, as you said, in attack. You're absolutely right, but too many times it felt to me like Guirassy was either offside. You mentioned he missed that glaring opportunity in the first half, or he just simply struggled to keep a hold of the ball. In fact, he gave away the ball more than any other Dortmund player in this game, if I'm not mistaken. He gave it away 4 times. The only player who gave it more away were actually Lopez and Lewandowski in the Barcelona team, who obviously touched the ball a lot more than him. Um, um, and then obviously in midfield, they were missing Pascal Gross, who was out due to suspension, Marcel Sabitzer as well. So they had this kind of makeshift midfield of Mecha and Chukwuemeka, which on paper seems like quite a dynamic duo. And I did think, well, hey, this might actually work quite well. But I thought Chukwuemeka was okay in this game, but I thought Mecha, and this is something that he does do from time to time, he just disappears in games.
Mm.
He just struggles. We know he's technically a very good player. We know he can pass, he can dribble, he can tackle. He's a decent box-to-box player, but he just completely withered in this match, and you completely forgot he was on the pitch. And then obviously in defence, it was just a complete car crash throughout the match. Whether that's Benzemaini on one wing, or I thought Anton again was pretty poor in this match. Emre Can wasn't much better. Yes, Dortmund were missing Schlotterbeck, and maybe it would have been better if they had someone like Svensson in at left back. But I guess with Schlotterbeck, the obvious thing is that they missed his passing, which I think was a huge problem. I think the weird thing about this game was that even though Dortmund were the away team, they were the team that kept getting pounced on with counterattacks, which you would think would be the other way around. You'd think Barcelona would control the game, they'd control possession, they'd pin Dortmund back, and it would be Dortmund who'd be trying to counterattack up the pitch. But
Mm.
for long stretches of this game, Barcelona were just quite happy for Dortmund to keep the ball. And specifically in the second half, they just picked them off time after time after time. And I said on social media full time that the kind of magic to this Barcelona team is that they are quite happy to play this very open style of football. They want their opposition team to attack them. They're quite happy. Well, not happy, but they're willing to accept that they'll let teams like Dortmund have chances against them. But they just kind of fall back on this mantra or belief that, Yamal, Rafinha, and Lewandowski will just simply outscore the opposing front line. And that's what happened in this game, really. Guirassy had
Mm.
chances, Gittins had chances, Adeyemi had chances, and those guys just weren't anywhere near as clinical as the Barcelona front three, to the tune of 4 goals. And yeah, but at the end of the day, Dortmund were very well beaten, and I don't think they can have too many complaints.
No, I mean, I'm the thing I'm not sure about is why Niko Kovac didn't stick with his Freiburg lineup. I thought that Bayern, Adeyemi in the attack were far more effective than Guirassy, Adeyemi, and Gittins. There was just more speed in that lineup. There was more directness. I thought Carney had his best game against Freiburg as well, right? Playing as kind of like a number 10. But then Kovac opted to stick Brandt back into this team, stick Guirassy back in this team, and you never know how that goes, right? With Guirassy, if he scores a chance and it's 1-1, and then maybe Dortmund do weather the storm. It didn't. I think it's just robbed them a little bit of mobility in the attack. And then Adeyemi, I mean, I don't know what he was on in that first half, but he came out with the knife between his teeth and um, seemed completely unsettled throughout the first 45 minutes to the extent that he had to come off at half time for Bayer because he was on the verge of getting sent off, and that is just something. I wondered about that Freiburg game, whether that was going to be a bit of a fluke. Because we mentioned it on the main show that that's a team that they have an enormously good record against. The team was set up really well for them too, and we were worried that Kovac maybe would not have the courage to stick with this lineup. And that's essentially what happened here. I think with Bayern Adeyemi in the attack in the first half, maybe some of these counter chances end up in more directness and in a more fruitful in a more fruitful manner, and maybe the same way than that game that they played during the league phase. Which, yeah, okay, Dortmund lost, but they lost only 3-2. I think if they lose this game 3-2 and go back to the Westfalenstadion, that's a completely different story. And now it's the second leg is essentially a, I don't know, possession appropriate for Barcelona to celebrate the entrance into the semi-final, where I think they're on the same side than PSG, right? So yeah, I guess considering that result as well, that's going to be a spectacular match. But for Dortmund, this is essentially, I think where we are now is now what, right? What are we going to do with the rest of the season with them here?